Hello and welcome back to the show. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about why instruments are tuned the way they are. Now, I could get really detailed, but that would take way longer than we've got today. So I thought I'd touch on a little bit of just the basics of why instruments are tuned the way they are. It started way back in ancient Greece with a guy named Pythagoras. Now, I know everyone here probably knows about Pythagoras from a horrible math class they had in high school. And don't worry, I won't bore you to death with the Pythagorean theorem. I'm only talking about what Pythagoras did for music, which is still math-related, but it's not as horrible as you might think. Pythagoras thought of music and notes as math as well. He was a mathematician after all. He attempted to tune notes with ratios because each note has its own number in terms of what number of hertz it is. For example, we generally tune A4 to 440 hertz. If a note with 100 hertz and a note with 200 hertz were played at the same time, that ratio was referred to as 2 to 1 for obvious reasons, and that ratio was given the name of an octave, so A3 and A4. In other intervals within that area, they have different ratios. A perfect fifth would have the ratio of 3 to 2, and that sounded quite nice to our ears. Another interval that sounded nice, or in other words, consonant, is at the interval of a fourth, which is 4 to 3. Some of the other intervals that didn't sound so nice, such as a minor second, or what's referred to as a tritone, had very large and complicated ratios. For example, the tritone had an interval of 729 to 512, which isn't exactly the most simple thing ever. Our brains prefer very simple ratios, 2 to 1, 3 to 2. These intervals are much more consonant than intervals such as a tritone, whose interval is 729 to 512. Pythagoras based a tuning system off of these notes. He had the intervals of octave, fourth, and fifth set as consonant and everything else as dissonant, or not nice sounding, even though this would later evolve to consider thirds and sixths as consonant as well. He developed this tuning system so that music at the time, rather than being tuned to some arbitrary note and being played different ways every time, would have a system to always be based off of, so that there were more options for composers of the time to actually write music in. So that's the basis of tuning systems. Now, it obviously evolved from that. We now use something called equal temperament, which is very different from how Pythagoras viewed music, tuning, and the nice perfect ratios he set up here. But that's the basics of why we tune instruments the way we do. Thank you, and I hope to see you back here next week for another episode of the show.